Hey, this should be pretty quick or not. I don't know. Hey, Popcorn and M&Ms. Hi, Amber. Hi, YTS asshole. Hey, PJ. Thank you. I got that article. I appreciate it. Okay, so yesterday, because today's the 23rd. Oh, hey, by the way, I see that none of us have been raptured, so we're good for September 23rd so far. Of course, we still have some time left here on the East Coast. Hi, Kate the Great. Welcome in. So, yesterday, I'm going to share this. President Trump and Secretary of the Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., announced that they're going to be focusing on autism. And then they came out and made this allegation that Tylenol, acetaminophen, has been linked to the uprising in autism diagnoses. We'll talk about my opinion on that later. You guys can weigh in, but I just want to read this to you guys real quick. Let me see if I can get rid of me. And I hate it when I do this because it acts weird. Make this bigger for you guys, hopefully. Okay, here we go. So it says, President Trump, Secretary Kennedy announced bold actions to tackle autism epidemic. Now, in their press conference yesterday, President Trump called this a crisis of autism. So this was yesterday, September 22nd, 2025. Speaking from the Roosevelt Room today, President Donald J. Trump and U.S. Health and Human Services, HHS, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced bold new actions to confront the nation's autism spectrum disorder, the ASD epidemic, which has surged nearly 400% since 2000. Okay. And it now affects 1 in 31 American children. For too long, families have been left without answers or options as autism rates have soared, Secretary Kennedy said. Today, we are taking bold action, opening the door to the first FDA-recognized treatment pathway. FDA. What does that mean? Drugs. Big pharma. Okay. I'll try not to snark. Stop it, Grandma. Stop it. Oh, informing doctors and families about potential risks and investing in groundbreaking research. Well, that's good. We will follow the science, restore trust, and deliver hope to millions of American families. First, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, will act on a potential treatment for speech-related deficits associated with ASD. The FDA today is publishing a Federal Register notice outlining a label update for leucovorin for cerebral folate deficiency. Hi, Mustang. How are you, honey? How they came to this conclusion in such a short period of time, Kate will get there. Okay. This action establishes the first FDA-recognized therapeutic for children with cerebral folate deficiencies and autistic symptoms. The change will authorize treatment for children with ASD with continued use if children show language, social, or adaptive gains. So this isn't like fully tested or anything yet, from what I'm understanding. Following the label update for ASD, state Medicaid programs will be able to cover leucovorin for the indication of ASD in partnership with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Finally, the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, that used to be NIM, remember the secret of NIM, National Institute of Mental Health, will launch confirmatory trials and new research into the impact of leucovorin, including safety studies. So, while promising, it is important to note that leucovorin is not a cure for ASD and may only lead to improvements in speech-related deficits for a subset of children with ASD. Furthermore, this treatment must be administered under close medical supervision and in conjunction with other non-pharmacological approaches for children with ASD, i.e., or e.g., behavioral therapy. As a physician, I'm sorry. As a physician, I have seen how devastating autism spectrum disorder can be for children and their families. CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz said, I'm sorry, do you know who Mehmet Oz is? Do you remember this guy? This is Mehmet Oz. Remember him from television? Dr. Oz. That's why I was laughing. Sorry. Sorry. Hold it together. Okay. Today's actions represent an unprecedented, comprehensive approach to deepen our understanding of the causes of autism, share what we know and don't know based on current research, and ensure that every child has a better chance to thrive. By providing access to a drug to treat symptoms associated with autism, we are providing hope to families and providers who have until today had very limited options. Yes, he had a show. Sorry. Second, HHS will act on acetaminophen. This is Tylenol. Today, the FDA will issue a physician notice and begin the process to initiate a safety label change for acetaminophen, Tylenol, and similar products. The HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. The FDA is responding to prior clinical and laboratory studies that suggest a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes. FDA also recognizes that there are contrary studies showing no association, and there can be risks for untreated fever in pregnancy, both for mother and fetus. Given the conflicting literature and lack of clear causal evidence, HHS wants to encourage clinicians to exercise their best judgment in the use of acetaminophen for fevers and pain in pregnancy by prescribing the lowest effective dose for the shortest duration when treatment is required. Furthermore, FDA recognizes that acetaminophen is often the only tool for fevers and pain in pregnancies, as other alternatives, e.g. NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, have well-documented adverse effects. FDA is partnering with the manufacturers to update labeling and drive new research to safeguard mothers, children, and families. Science proves it's bad not to get rid of fevers during pregnancy right away. Oh, okay. A growing body of evidence suggests that some children suffering from autism are folate deficient within the brain, a problem that can be treated with leucovorin. FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary said, given the extent of the current autism epidemic, physicians should immediately have this treatment option available for candidate children. We are also sharing new information about the potential risks of acetaminophen so patients can make a more informed decision with their healthcare provider. Third, NIH today is announcing the recipients of the Autism Data Science Initiative, the ADSI, funding 13 projects totaling more than $50 million to transform autism research. Hi, KCG. ADSI integrates large-scale biological, clinical, and behavioral data with an exposamic, there's a new word for me, an exposamics approach that examines environmental, nutritional, medical, and social factors alongside genetics. Projects employ advanced methods such as machine learning, AI, and organoid models address both children and adults across the lifespan and establish replication hubs to ensure rigor. Each project includes community engagement to align research with the needs of autistic individuals, families, and clinicians. Millions of American families who care for autistic kids need scientists to apply gold standard science, expertise, and open minds to figure out how to help these kids. NIH Director Dr. J. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. With the Autism Data Science Initiative, NIH is harnessing cutting-edge science to uncover the root causes of autism. We are building knowledge that can improve lives and restore hope for families. That's why you get prenatal vitamins. Yes, yeah. Oh, okay. This is the fact sheet. And did we switch over? I lost everything. Hang on. Here we go. It should be coming up. Maybe. Oh, there it is. Here's the fact sheet. Okay, blah, blah, press conference, Roosevelt Room. The key findings. 1 in 31 U.S. children, or 3.2%, born in 2014 are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. That's a sharp increase from 1 in 36. So basically, there's 5 more, just 2 years earlier. Prevalence nearly 5 times higher than when the CDC began tracking in 2000. There was 1 in 150. Boys are disproportionately affected, 1 in 20. And California has the highest prevalence, 1 in 12.5. So this is the new untested drug. Leucovorin for cerebral folate deficiency. What it is, a neurological condition where the brain doesn't get enough folate, an essential B vitamin, even when folate levels in the rest of the body are normal. Folate is essential for brain development and function. Deficiencies of folate in the brain causes severe problems, including autistic symptoms. Hi, Louise. How are you, honey? Pookie. Hey. I'm so frustrated. Okay, who it affects? Cerebral folate deficiency, that's the CFD, has multiple causes, including rare genetic forms and autoimmune forms, with the latter being more common. The FOLR1 deficiency is a rare genetic form which may affect 1 million individuals worldwide. However, the true prevalence is unknown. CFD presents in early childhood with severe neurological symptoms and developmental delay. Autoimmune forms are caused by autoantibodies that mistakenly attack the body. Hi, Oki. Mistakenly attack the body's folate transport system, preventing folate from reaching the brain and yielding the same severe symptoms. Patients with genetic forms have symptoms typically beginning around age 2, which oddly enough is when people start noticing that their kid might be autistic and go to have them tested, such as global development delays with autistic features and psychomotor regression, intractable seizures, and motor disorders. Patients with autoimmune forms have heterogeneous neuropsychiatric symptoms, including potentially severe autism factors. Hey, Steph. Oh, I hope Tazzie's okay, Pookie. Okay, so basically the drug bypasses the defective transport system. Current evidence and treatment response. Remember we just read that they're going to be doing tests? Okay. Analysis across 23 publications from 2009 to 2024 demonstrated the effectiveness for CFD. Overall, 85% of patients experienced some type of clinical benefit, including improved speech communication capabilities. Efficacy data on the use of leucovorin in the autoimmune form of CFD suggests that these patients may also benefit from the treatment. So, blah blah blah. I'm gonna drop these in the chat, and I should have linked them in my description. But to be honest with you, I was a little angry, so I didn't. So then we go on to the Tylenol use in pregnancy. So acetaminophen or Tylenol is an over-the-counter analgesic and antipyretic widely used during pregnancy. Concerns have arisen regarding possible neurodevelopmental risks associated with chronic prenatal exposure and potential overuse for low-grade fevers in pregnant women. Large-scale cohort studies include the Nurses' Health Study 2 and the Boston Birth Cohort, report associations in utero exposure and later diagnoses of autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Scientists have proposed biological mechanisms linking prenatal acetaminophen exposure to altered brain development. There are conflicting findings. Yeah, they don't tell you they use it for chemo patients as well. Okay. Family-based Scandinavian studies comparing exposed and unexposed siblings have not shown significant associations. Critics from the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai and Harvard argue that statistical adjustments in these analyses may mask true effects. Okay, so population impact. So this is the part where they're talking about they're throwing $50 million into more autism research, which I think is fabulous, as long as they're actually trying to figure out what causes autism, how best to treat it, and not treat us like we're some kind of monsters. So I see some of your comments already. There I am. You got him. Nobody likes to be neutered, Pookie. Okay. Can't take any form of aspirin. Yeah, not advised with thinners. Exactly. And, there's they all have problems, like too much Tylenol damages the liver, too much acetaminophen. And then all the other NSAIDs, whether it's, naproxen sodium or ibuprofen or whatever, everything has some sort of side effect. Everything does if you abuse it, if you overuse it. Simon's simplex study 20 years ago determined a genetic key. Yeah, exactly. And here's the bad thing about this. I'm going to share this with you, okay? And I'm really trying to be I'm going to try to be balanced, okay? And I just want to say, like, real quick, that this is a president who during COVID thought it would be a great idea to inject yourself with bleach. Just saying. Okay, so this is from the Autism Science Foundation. It's not even scientifically proven. Why say anything to people exactly? Okay, so New York. We are deeply concerned by today's announcements from President Trump and HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., suggesting that taking acetaminophen Tylenol during pregnancy causes autism, that a medicine derived from folate can be used to treat symptoms of autism, and that vaccines should be broken up over multiple visits and MMR broken into separate shots. MMR, measles, mumps, rubella. Any association between acetaminophen and autism is based on limited, conflicting, and inconsistent science. Let me see if I can get rid of me again. Hang on. I don't like when you can't see the whole thing. And YouTube and YouTube. Okay, we'll have to live with it. Inconsistent science and is premature, said Autism Science Foundation Chief Science Officer, Dr. Alicia Halliday. This claim risks undermining public health while also misleading families who deserve clear, factual information. For many years, RFK Jr. and President Trump have shared the belief that vaccines cause autism, but this is also not supported by the science, which has shown no relation between vaccines and autism. Hey, Captain Avi. Hi, honey. Exactly, Queen Yanya. The diagnosis for autism and ADHD wasn't really applied until recently. Can the makers of Tylenol sue the government? I've seen some statements from them, but here, I don't think they can. And I'll go into that in just a second. No relationship between vaccines and autism. We're unsure why this announcement came today and how the conclusions were drawn, added Allison Singer, president of the Autism Science Foundation. No new data or scientific studies were presented or shared. No new studies have been published in the literature. No new presentations on this topic were made at scientific or medical conferences. Instead, President Trump talked about what he thinks and feels without offering scientific evidence. He said, "Tough it out," meaning don't take Tylenol or give it to your child. It took me straight back to when moms were blamed for autism. If you can't take the pain or deal with a fever, then it's your fault if your child has autism. That was shocking, simply shocking. What was said today was dangerous, added Dr. Halliday. President Trump and Secretary Kennedy downplayed the complexity of autism and suggested that autism rates would decline if pregnant women stopped taking Tylenol and if parents spaced out childhood vaccines. He claimed there were no downsides to these behaviors, which is inconsistent with long-standing public health practices. Chat GDP? Gross domestic product? What? Did I say chat G? No, I didn't. Stop it, guys. Squirrel! All righty. Can I get rid of that? No, I can't. Okay. Today's announcement distracts from the urgent scientific work needed to understand the true causes of autism and to develop better supports and interventions for autistic people and their family. Autism doesn't have a single cause. It is the result of a complex mix of genetics and environmental factors. We know that genetic factors play the biggest role. Hundreds of genes have also been linked to autism, and inherited or spontaneous changes in these genes can alter brain development. Environmental factors also matter, especially during pregnancy, such as advanced parental age at conception, prematurity or low birth weight, and exposures that affect brain development, like fever or illness during pregnancy. The best current science shows autism arises from a complex interaction of genetic susceptibilities with environmental influences during brain development. Your granddaughter asked if you were okay when I hollered, "Squirrel!" Oh, Chat GPT said, no, they can't. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. The Autism Science Foundation strongly supports research into autism's cause, which is great with that $50 million that they're going to be put into research. More research needs to be done before alarming families or suggesting steps that may not actually reduce risk. When we know that not treating a fever during pregnancy creates risk, pregnant women deserve clear, evidence-based guidance, not incomplete conclusions that could erode confidence in safe, beneficial care. Okay, I'm going to drop this because I could sit here and read this stuff all day. No, $50 million is not close to enough, Captain Albie. Not close to enough. Stop sharing. Bye. But here's the thing. And I've gone over this. I actually have in some of my older videos about autism. I talk about in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM, which is which is what doctors use for diagnosis, right? I'm trying to find my thing. They started listing autism in the 60s, but they had the word schizophrenia attached to autism until the 1980s. Some of y'all were alive. Oh. Bear with me. Yeah, so they had the word schizophrenia attached to it until the 1980s. It was autistic schizophrenia, blah, blah, blah. Oh, but they're cutting Medicaid. Okay. Maybe not. So, that's one thing. So we went from when Hans Asperger is the person that kind of started researching in boys these neurodiversities that he found. And then, they labeled it, okay, Asperger's syndrome after him. And then they progressed and they researched and did all this stuff. Bear with me just a second. Oh, sorry about that. Squirrel. So they researched and whatnot, and then they realized, oh, hey, you know what? Little girls have it too. I mean, figure I was born in 1961, and I've had autism my entire life. I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my 40s, so that was 20 something years ago. And during my diagnostic studies or whatever, my my doctor actually had to talk to my sister-in-law who was there while I was growing up. And my sister-in-law was able to tell her about some of the weird things that I did. Like I was a tiptoer. I walked on my tiptoes, and I used to stem by rocking and bouncing off the back of a couch. You know, Captain Avi, they said that California has a higher rate. And right now, I mean, we could do like some autism research and whatnot, but right now we're just kind of focusing on the United States. And Steph B, you spoil me rotten. Let me thank you, honey.
See what I did?
You so totally rock, Squirt! So give me some fin. Noggin. Dude.
And to all my new members, welcome, Grandma Hut. Welcome, Grandma Hut. Who are the new members? Ms. Leah, 12 a.m. Tears. Oh, that's such a sad name. PJ, welcome. Captain Obvi. Okie. Oh, that's so sweet. Thanks. So, there's a whole lot that's still not understood about autism. And it's only really been like maybe the last 5 or 6 years that there's been a really strong push for autism awareness. Because when I was a kid, my mom took me to get, to see a psychiatrist because she thought I was, and I'm sorry it's an offensive word, but this is what they called it. She thought I was retarded because I was weird. I was just acting weird. And so, it's really something that's not understood because it's not like you're a derailer. No, that's fine. I'm a squirreler, squirrel. So don't worry about that. 1 in 33 babies are born with autism. Yeah, that's what the HHS article was saying. It's actually increasing. I think it's 1 in 31 now, and there's been a sharp increase over the last 25 years or so. And this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Hey, Rockabit. Food. Dang, squirrel. Okay, so my experience, my understanding with autism is that most practitioners, even those in the mental health and neurological fields, they don't know what they're dealing with. They can throw some gabapentin at you or some SSRIs or something that helps with anxiety, that helps with, sensory overload, that kind of thing. But they really have no idea how to treat autism. The best thing that ever happened to me was cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, exactly, PJ. That's where I was going here. It's probably increasing because we have better ways of figuring things out rather than back then, but it's also being overdiagnosed. Exactly. I think it is being overdiagnosed. And I think because the Autism Society, the autism community, I don't know, are the NeuroSpicy people, none of us can agree on about anything. I belong to a lot of autism groups, different newsletters and online forums and things like that. Oh, yeah. Therapies help so much with your grand. Yes. You see, the thing is, because when you're autistic, you can't even really describe it, but if you went to a laser light show and it had all these things that it's doing up in the sky, and you're able to follow, and it's making all these wonderful things. If you combine that with a fireworks display and with 3 different concerts happening at the same time in your brain, that's kind of what autism is like. It's like your brain is on neuron firing overload all the time. And that's why little kids with autism break down and they have crying fits and things like that. I'm sorry, I just saw something. I don't see it over here on StreamYard, but Amber said, it's just a different processing system. I'd rather see acceptance. And Amber, that would be fabulous. That's why I say all the time, let's just do human better. Because if we can just accept each other for being the flawed humans that we are, whether it's autism or whether it's toxic personality disorder, I don't know. Whatever the thing is, if we could just accept other people where they are, that would be great. You wish it was readily available for everyone. Yeah. And my daughter told me that I thought my grandson was a R because I wanted him checked for autism when he was younger. I just wanted to see what was going on for him to have the best school. Exactly. And now schools have, and PJ, you might be able to help me with this, independent educational things. They didn't have those when my kids were in school, and I homeschooled them for the latter part of 9 years. But, they have specialized instruction plans, IEPs. Thanks, Steph. They have specialized instruction and one-on-one with teachers who have more training and individualized education plans. Thanks, PJ. So that kids who are having trouble in that environment can have a place where they can learn, because honestly, even nonverbal kids that are nonverbal or barely verbal or whatever, autistics, they're bright, they learn, they understand. And the only thing that really brought me into some sort of balance is when I went through behavioral therapy, when they taught me to take all the lasers and the fireworks and the concerts that were going on in my brain all at the same time, and to focus, to ground myself, to be introspective, and to realize how it's affecting me and how I was responding to these things, Huh. Hey, Mystery. Hi, honey. Hoodie. Hi, honey. Positive energy. Thanks, honey. School has given speech therapy, OTPT, and it's been a blessing. Yes. Yeah. Hi. Hi, pretty eye. Can I ask you, what were the circumstances that at 40 made you want to get tested for autism? Serious question, just trying to understand. Answers to be with. If not, that's okay too. Well, I can tell you, because of my age and the way I was raised, which was basically suck it up. If the bone's not sticking out, then you just suck it up and continue on. That's my dad's thought. So I was in my 40s. I was working for a huge nationally recognized corporation, and I was in their leadership development program. So they put me with some other people, and the stress of that caused a breakdown, a major meltdown. I mean, I would have them from time to time, but this was big. This was really big. And what happens when I go into meltdown, it's like my brain goes in what I call a dial tone. Y'all remember a dial tone? You pick up the phone and went, "Nyeh," until you dialed. Boop, 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 boop. And then it would ring, right? But that, that's what my brain would do. And I would get that 1,000-yard stare, and I would freeze. And that's what happened. So I ended up going to my counselor because I was seeing them for other things. And so as I was talking to her, she started asking me questions. What I didn't realize is that she was asking me questions that were from the autistic, what is it called? I just went dial tone right then. Autistic assessment is what it's like 50 general questions. Do you have this? Are you, sensitive to textures or sounds or tastes or, all that kind of thing. So without telling me that, and she said, what were you like as a child? And I told her that I was weird, and I got in trouble a lot because being autistic, I take everything dial tones and party lines. Hi, Zen. Because I take everything literally. Taking me a long time to understand jokes. So I got in trouble a lot because I would take things literally. I was almost fired from a job one time because I was working cable TV, and we were doing the disconnection of cable because people hadn't paid their cable bill for a while. And my technician was out at a house, and he radios into me, and he's like, this lady's freaking out. And I could hear in the background, she's screaming, and I hear kids. And then, so I said, give me a call on landline. So he calls me in the office, and she yanks the phone from him, and she tells me, if you disconnect my cable, I will kill these kids. And what did I do? Called the police. Lady said she's going to kill the kids. So I was almost fired over that. Yeah, wish we could be ourselves and not have to modify. But the thing was that as she was go back to my therapist, was asking me about my childhood, and so she said, do you have any relatives that maybe could answer some questions for me? And I was like, yeah, because the only one living at the time was my sister-in-law. So I referred, I gave her phone number, and my therapist called her and asked a bunch of questions. And then a couple of weeks later, go back to see her again, and she goes, I think you have autism. She says, actually, I feel strong enough I can diagnose you that you are on the autistic spectrum. And she said, you're high functioning, because automatically I thought, oh my God. I didn't know much about autism. And so she hooked me up with a different therapist that specialized in autism. And then we just kind of went from there, hooked me up with some different groups, hooked me up with behavioral therapy, that kind of thing. With autism, I would think grounding is tough. I mean, with ADHD, yeah. Well, you know what it's like, PJ. You know what it's like. Sometimes I just have to be by myself. I call it small and quiet. I tell my friends I have to be small and quiet. Steph B, you're like my mod, honey, and you were on Top Chat. Oh, hey, if anybody sees your Kiwi Mate or Tony Martini or whatever, can you tell him to unblock me? Because every chat I'm in where he's there, I can't see him. So tell Tony Martini to unblock me. There are definite pros and cons with IEP and 504s. I believe all children should be tested at different developmental points of growth. Mental health needs to be made a priority for our children. Honey, I think mental health needs to be made a priority for everybody. For everybody. Because it seems like we're in a society right now. Oh, calling the cops. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. That's one of my major flaws is I'm transparent. What you see is what you get. The thing is, yeah, there's so many levels of autism, yeah. But there's technically 4 levels, okay? And as far as diagnosis goes. But the point is that because autism is a spectrum, if you think of a spectrum like you might see on a color wheel or something where, it might be blue over here, but it might be kind of a bluey purple over there. It's the same thing, only different. That's what makes it so hard. You wonder why every kid doesn't have an IEP? Okay, I'm going to say a sinner here. I'm 2 minutes behind in chat. Yeah. Individualized education is correct. And when what your child should be law tested by development and growth. It's supposed to be done that way. Sorry. Yes, PJ is a teacher. And Monty Mods, can you grab PJ's link? Because honestly, guys, she's a small channel and she's so faithful and she doesn't do crap when it comes to true crime. She might mention, people are saying this or whatever for speculation or rumor, but she is so respectful to the victims, to their families, to the process. So if you could drop PJ's link, that would be great. I'm supposed to be done that way. Sorry, I'm a teacher, but that's a law and you're right. Yes. Almost definitely everyone should have access to mental health, but I do believe if we have a setup connected to education, yes. I've been off in a mental health med since I was a kid. Different doctors saying, try this, try that. They never left me on one long enough to see if it works. I'm sorry. Mine was diagnosed as ADHD for years. And after 3 neuropsychology tests, they added autism. Exactly. Thank you, Steffi. I appreciate that, baby. Yeah, lighting their way home. Bear with me. Hold on. Hold, please. Let me find my thing. Okay, I'm back. I got choked up. Oh, I got choked up. Yeah. So, but this whole announcement that they did today, and I've got some things here just real quick. Let me share. This is my ex. Because you know me, I like to be I like to hear both sides, whether I agree with them or not. I am Grandma Sherry on X, by the way. So this is Eric Figelding, Dr. Eric Ding. I don't know who he is, but I was reading through this. This has got some pretty neat research on it. Tylenol and autism. RFK Jr. and Trump are wrong. The largest and best study in the world, 2.5 million kids, found no increased autism risk with acetaminophen, aka paracetamol, Tylenol, used by the mother during pregnancy. A crude, unadjusted analysis found only a preliminary 5% risk, but once you adjust for families by matching user sibling controls who didn't get autism, even the tiny 5% vaporizes to zero. Fun fact, I used to do drug safety epidemiology and had been a whistleblower against Big Pharma when their drugs were dangerous, so I knew a few things about drug use and safety. Here's the thread. I'll drop this thing. There you go. Prevalence of analgesic use during pregnancy and neurodevelopmental disorder incidences. So, I like to read these things. Why? Because I'm a geek. Because I'm a geek. Oh, by the way, I have started calling this former Twitter platform excrement. Get it? Excrement. Okay. And here's another guy. Neither Trump nor RFK Jr. linked Tylenol with autism. The dean of Harvard School of Public Health did. And this is the statement from Andrea Baccarelli, MD, PhD, dean of faculty, professor of environmental health, Harvard, talking about a rigorous review funded by a grant from the NIH, the potential risks of acetaminophen use during pregnancy. We reviewed 46 previously published human studies worldwide. They found evidence of an association between exposure to acetaminophen during pregnancy and increased incidence of neurodevelopmental disorders in children. Like I said, and here's the thing here. But the whole thing, it just seems wrong to me. It seems wrong to me because, they were saying that giving like the MMR vaccines, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccines, that, a bunch of people are anti-vaxxers, and I'm not saying boo on you, but I can tell you that since some of these vaccines were invented like polio, guys, when I was a kid, the polio vaccine was new. And so I actually knew people that had spent time in those iron lung contraptions because they had polio. Yeah. And yeah, pretty much babies are born with autism. They are. Woo, rock a bit. Go ahead, you. See, I was getting there, but you got me before that. How about look at all the preservatives in food and. Yes. Yes. And that's the whole thing, Steph, is that for the longest time, if your child came out, with a birth defect, or if the child came out with, autistic, or if a child came out with Down syndrome or whatever, it was blamed on the mother. Like she couldn't carry a baby properly or something ridiculous. And this is I'm talking about within this last 50 years. You agree with science? Blinded me with science. Yeah. But it's nothing that I believe that this announcement could have just been totally focused on the drug that they're announcing. Hooray, they probably all have stocks in that pharmaceutical company, and they're thrilled to let everybody know, and I don't know if Tylenol said something bad about RFK or Trump or somebody, But for them to come out and make this, because this is an official announcement. What I read to you was from the Health and Human Services.gov website. I believe it's not the vaccine, but the schedule they're given. This with the high chemicals and hormones as foods is causing extreme mental and developmental issues. You know what? The majority of the food that we eat that has been grown in America, and most of the stuff that we eat isn't even grown in America anymore, is so polluted with pesticides, with herbicides, with, chemical fertilizers and all this other stuff, that most of the food that we eat, even the stuff on the outside aisles, like, the fresh vegetables and fruits and all that kind of stuff, have very little to no nutritional value anymore. And of course, the weird disclaimer that I am not a licensed professional and all information presented is for educational purposes only and not a substitute for professional advice. Before undertaking anything presented here, please consult with your mental health or physical health care provider. Thank you so much. Monofarming. I personally think the baby vaccines has something to do with it, or giving babies the Tylenol after the vaccines for pain. I don't know, Pretty Eye. Many countries won't even use the food we eat. And I was just thinking about that today. Because some of the creators that I follow, not in, the Gramma or any of those, but they actually go like to different countries. Some of them are missionaries and others do other things. But they always talk about when they go to Europe or they go to Japan or they go to China or somewhere, they come back, and they start losing weight while they're gone, and they just eat like, maniacs. And then they come back and they're feeling great. And then they start eating. And some of these people are like, not vegan, but they're like really lean meat, and it has to be organic and, ethically sourced and, sustainable and all that stuff. They're that kind of people. And so they come back here and they start eating the food here and they start feeling bad. So there's something about it. And again, with the Agenda 2030, and what if many came to this planet to shift the world and the way of communication processing? Okay, all right. You made me, Steph. Yeah. Okay, what time is it?
It's time to sigh and roll your eyes. Put on that plastic smile. It's time for this shit that Grandma talks about.
Okay. Steph's saying, what if many came to this planet to shift the world in the way of communication and processing? You know what I think about people, bodies, meat suits, the energy, the spirit, the soul that's inside, and how it affects the brain. And if you haven't been here long, yes, tinfoil hat time. And so some of that theory is that without making this like a real long protracted thing, but some of the theory is that because the time is shifting and the veil is thinning and things are becoming more spiritual, people are becoming more spiritually aware than they were even in the 60s on LSD, that because there is a heightened spiritual awareness, and some people call themselves star seeds, like they're hybrids of non-human intelligence, ETs or whatever. But I honestly wonder about autism because, they say that we use maybe 30% of our brain right now. And most of the part of the brain that we use is the lizard brain in the back. LSD, just kidding. No, truly. That's what people did LSD in the 60s for, to expand their mind. That's why people, what is that stuff called? I always mispronounce it. Ayahuasca or whatever. People go on these retreats and do ayahuasca to open their mind. That's why we have Burning Man and all those things. So people can take mushrooms and open their mind. And I honestly wonder about that heightened spirituality in autism. Because with autism, we're definitely using way more of our brains. The neural pathways might be all messed up, but it could be because we're not being in the proper vibration, the proper environment. And I often wondered, and bear with me here, okay, if the nonverbal autistic people, if they can actually communicate telepathically. Ayahuasca. Hey, Peach. Hi, honey. I wonder if they can I wonder if they're trying to telepathically communicate. And why I think this, and bear with me, I'll try to make this short, but I was reading this book. It was written by this nurse that was working out around Roswell in 1948 when the crash happened. And there was an alien, I'll just call him an alien, that lived. And we couldn't communicate with it because it really didn't have vocal cords and it didn't eat either. But for some reason, she kind of understood what it was saying. Like she could see pictures and realized it was coming from this thing. So they got to this point after working together that she could understand what this alien was talking about. And they called the alien Errol, AIRL. Anyway, so as Errol was learning, it was never able to actually speak, but it was able to learn English. And then the nurse taught the alien to read, and it just, because it didn't sleep either, it just consumed book after book after book after book. And they were able to actually have conversations about it. And so all of this was done telepathically. And then there's things like remote viewers and people who have talked about angels who came to visit them, and they didn't hear a voice, but they heard it in their head. And I'm wondering, yeah, your daughter uses words that no one else uses. She's so smart. Mine are redheads with blue eyes and RH negative. Girl, I'm O negative. And I have green eyes. And when I was younger, my hair was auburn. I wasn't like ginger red, but yeah. So I think there's something to that, and I'm not exactly sure, but I really think that if we could understand, the people that are neurodiverse, because the majority of them, with the exception of Brian Koberger, he's the only violent one I've ever known of, because most people I know of with autism are kind of gentle people. I mean, we can be blunt and be assholes because, the social skill thing. But on the whole, it's hard for us to lie, because within the efficiency of the autistic brain, why am I going to have to track something that's not true? Which is why, when it comes down to, if I hear something, I'm going to imprint on it. So it better be right the first time I hear it. And if it's not, I'm going to remember exactly what was said or where it was. We're here to bring back the sixth sense, y'all. I believe it goes so much farther than that. The story I was telling you about Errol from Roswell, Errol was talking about how, what they were looking at and talking to was actually just kind of like a biomechanical suit. It wasn't really Errol, that we're all just spirit. We're all just intelligence and energy. And where they are communicating telepathically was not a big deal, because they just got rid of all the bullshit. They all got along, and if they had differences of opinion, then everybody knew what you were thinking, and it was just a neat society. But I kind of want to leave you with this, which has nothing to do with Tylenol or autism. But Errol said that the aliens called us ISBs. ISBs, ISBEs. And that's because outside of the meat suit, we are. What we have is. We are, And then when we choose to come and incarnate for whatever god-awful reason, we're here on the earth to interact with each other and whatnot, then we choose to be. So they called us ISBs, and I just think that's so cool. ISBs, yes. Yeah, it's just a really cool concept. And I'm naive enough, I'm stupid enough to think that even in our toxic environments and all that we can get to a place, even if it's a very small, like, my people, my honey bunnies, here that come and hang out with me. I think we're kind of one mind, that we want to be kind. We want to learn. We want to expand. We want to challenge each other and to be curious. And, the kind of people that actually put the grocery cart back in the stall before driving away. You just don't leave it in the parking lot. That we're those kind of people. And I like that. And, it would be great to have, 300 people or 900 people in here, and, but we're not going to have that, guys. We're not going to have that, because I think the people that hang out with me, that hang out and listen to all of the weird shit that I talk about, and the peopling thing, the emotions and autism and loneliness and, all that kind of thing, that we're kind of rare. And I like it. I like it a lot. And, if I'm wrong, I am the first person that's going to say, yeah, I was wrong. And here's why I was wrong. And I'm sorry that I was wrong. And if I say something that I think is snarky and cute and funny, but it's not, I am surrounded by so many people. And let me see. This is my love language. And it could be this or that or whatever. And in case you can't see, if you're just listening, it's like a middle finger. It's a bird. It's a fuck you, but there's a lot of love surrounded by it. And that's because the people that are close in my life that we love each other enough to be honest with each other, and it's a safe space. Yes, it is. It's something to celebrate and embrace. That's for sure. Yeah, so basically, I love you, but fuck you, you're wrong, you know? And I think that's us people here. We are. And we're just seeking the truth. And, you know, a bunch of people are.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
People can't handle the truth. So let them just go along in whatever they want to do. But I'm going to put the links to all this crap that I've read and some other stuff, and in the description. You know, I've been dropping them here in the chat, and I just wanted to bring that to you right quick and see what you guys had to say about it, that kind of thing. Dooby-dooby-doo-doo-doo. I don't have anything fun or cute at the end, but that's okay because I usually get a copyright strike or, you know, a claim for it anyway. So if you could please like the video. If you come back later, if you could hype it. I don't know if I'm eligible for hype, but I am getting back out. Hey, Twist. I'm getting back out into the algorithm. I am going live a little more frequently. I'm working on some videos, and I've been going through that FBI declassified vault. Guys, oh my God, there's so much fun stuff. Yeah, so I love you all. And as always, if you just need somebody to talk to, there's a bunch of helplines in the end.